Welcome to Have an Opinion, Nick and Kyle. Back here today talking about the Logan Paul-Floyd Mayweather fight. We watched another episode of Forensic Files, and we're going to start a new series. We're starting all these new series. They all get canceled, too, like every show you've ever seen on Fox, aside from Family Guy. A new series where we say, okay, this is universally accepted as this band or this artist's best song, but what's their next best song? What's the contender to that song? All of that and some enlightening side conversation for all of you freaks. Up next on Have an Opinion. All right. Kyle just took a sip of whatever his drink of the day is, but it is Nick and Kyle back on your television screen, iPhone screen, laptop screen, or just in your ear holes from a podcast player. But we are excited to be back. We got our mic stands, as you can see.
They look nice.
It was well worth the wait. These were the ones I talked about a couple of weeks ago in the unaired episode. It feels more like
legit.
I can look at you now, which is always a plus.
There's not as much
looking through the But the best part of this, the whole thing, is that I waited. Right? I like things to happen quick, but I waited. I got an Amazon gift card after my grad party, and I spent like $4 on these after we applied. So like for $4, like you could snap one in half and go, no worries, man. We'll get another one.
I've said it. You could snap it in half.
You can't though. This stuff's made well.
Yeah, I don't want to
you could conk someone out with this and have your own episode of Forensic Files, which is where we'll start today in a moment. But Kyle, what are we drinking?
Full Throttle. At this point, because I usually drink like grape Nos. Nos is my favorite. But I'm like, well, now it's the thing that I bring a new flavor. So Full Throttle, it's been around forever. It's one of those like Full Throttle, Venom, Amp. Like the ones that were big before like Monster and Rockstar. It's not great. It tastes Full Throttle, but as far as like, would I get a bunch of these? I don't know. It's citrus. It's a run-of-the-mill energy drink.
How's life going? Aside from the lackluster drink of the day.
You know what's growing on me the more I think about it?
Life's growing on you.
Life is good. We're just approaching wiffle ball season, which I've been waiting for a long time.
Patiently waiting.
But I hope it goes well.
I hope it does too. The Cucks, they're back.
They're
just kidding.
Around.
So we'll start this week off with Forensic Files, where we ended last week. And if you were expecting us to sit here and make fun of an idiotic murderer again, I have some unfortunate news for you.
We have a good one. We don't have the slingshot.
Yeah, we don't have the slingshot guy, Dan, back this week, unfortunately. I will preface with a few things. Okay. This is true crime. This is murder stuff. So it should be taken seriously. I know last week we had some funny clientele involved.
Sure.
A very joyful, I don't know if joyful's the right word, but a very easygoing kind of make fun of this guy kind of storyline.
And when you know they're guilty, you can like, oh, that guy's an idiot, and now he's going to spend the rest of his life paying for it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't feel bad about making fun of that guy. He should be in jail. You know.
Right. And I love the hand movement we can do now, too, without worrying about whacking stuff. We're just going to have random comments about the mic stands instead of mic arms, but cool. But back to the main serious topic, we will throw a few jokes in here and there, but the subject material of this week's episode is much more serious, and I don't want anyone at any point to think we're making fun of what the victim endured or any of the scenarios that she was put in. We might make fun of a couple things here and there, but no way are we trying to make fun of that situation or something. So I'd like to preface with that.
No, that's good.
If you have too much time on your hands, you can probably pull something out of context and make us look bad anyway, but please don't do that. I don't have a good lawyer. So we go to Collection 4. The episode is called Head Games. People call me Heads. I thought, hey, this makes sense. It just makes sense.
That was good.
And they use the word slain in the description, and that's just a word that I'm like, oh, they got slain. And then it happens, and I'm like, it wasn't really slain.
No.
I've expected like a stabbing or something.
Is slain the past tense of slaughter or slayed? I've always wondered that. Slain? I don't know.
That's like those words that it probably shouldn't be, but there's probably the way the English language works,
Right,
a compelling argument for or
enough.
against it. So our opening narration kicks in, and they talk about how Korean War history helps.
Funny.
And
I have
immediately
that
my
written.
ears pop, and I'm like, Kyle's got to pick up on that too. Like, what?
And it's funny, like, when it does come in, it was very minor, but...
Because they listed a few things that helped them solve it, and they're like, and Korean War history. And I was like, what? I was like, what? So we are taking a trip to the West Coast to Mount Hood, Oregon. They called it a sportsman's paradise. A lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, a lot of good outdoorsman culture kinds of things going on there. And so we get told the story. We're going to do this like last week, but I'll just move the story along, and Kyle can chime in, and we'll start talking at random points. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Kendra...
I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Kendra and her husband... This is the first problem we're going to have with this episode. I don't mean to offend anybody. I've never heard this name pronounced this way before. If it's a cultural thing,
instead of Kendra.
I'm sorry. You make fun of my name all you want. Whatever. His name is spelt Julio. But it's pronounced
yes, we talked about
Julio, like Jewel Pod, like Julio Torres are their names. Kendra and Julio Torres are the names of the two people we meet right away. They go out for a weekend camping trip, Kyle.
So from there, I had seen this episode before.
Oh, had you?
And I didn't know it until, and I was like, well, it's a good one because I remember remembering it. So they go, from what I remember, they go fishing. I did watch it last night. I don't want you to think I'm going off the cuff.
What happens? I didn't know if you had anything to say.
I
can keep the storyline go. It didn't matter. So the first thing that really captures your attention here is Julio is 21.
I was just gonna say that's my first note is. Because he's 21, she's 16, and this trip is their first year anniversary.
Yes.
Does that mean they were 20 and 15?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know when this took place.
So, yeah, they never say a year for this one.
They don't?
I don't think they do.
Gotcha. Because she made it seem like her dad wanted her to get married, and
it was weird.
One of those old school, like, she found someone good, young, and they just kind of went with it. But yeah, I noticed that. I was like, those ages are not, with today's standards, not at all where they should be.
One's just able to have a beer, and the other's got their learner's permit.
Right, still not driving.
But they're married for a year. Yeah, it's their anniversary.
Right.
Some weird commentary, in my opinion. Well, they have a dog named Rusty, too.
Oh, yeah.
That pooch is a big part of this story, actually.
Forgot about Rusty for a moment.
Not to be confused with Clark W. Griswold from Christmas Vacation and Vacation, Rusty Griswold. No. Rusty the dog.
Rusty the dog.
So Kendra is noticed by a fisherman, Tom Brown.
Right.
And Kendra gets interviewed frequently throughout this, which I didn't see this before. So I'm like, did she do it and get off already? Is she on parole? Like, I didn't know.
The first time I do remember thinking that, because when they focus in on one person that isn't an expert, they're usually either the person who did it or was framed or... Yeah,
there's something weird.
And the more you hear, the more you don't know about her, and you'll get to that.
Right. And so she basically, this is the part, like, it wasn't comfortable for me. Because she goes, she was used to being looked at because she was really attractive. And this Tom Brown guy's kind of shooting glances at her, kind of looking at her weird.
Right.
And in the reenactment, they've got, like, this woman dressed up, like, in Daisy Dukes, like a tied shirt.
Yep.
Like, it keeps zooming in on her boobs, and she's, like, laying on the rocks, like, paint me like one of your French girls. And I'm like, this is just, it's not sitting right with me, man.
Yeah, and she, like, looks over at the other fisherman and, like, waves, and it's like that. I don't know. It looks weird.
It was very uncomfortable the way they do it in the reenactment. And like, she refers to herself as attractive, too.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Which, I mean, that's fine. It's just, because where it ends up going, it's very like, oh...
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable. And the whole age thing doesn't help either.
Yeah. She was just old enough to drive a car. So it's a little awkward. They're not catching anything. They went fishing, as you alluded to earlier. Julio and Kendra, they're not catching anything. This Tom Brown character says, hey, there's a good fishing spot wherever. It turns out, though, that's a bit of a walk. They end up setting up camp for the night.
Right.
And so there's really nothing to talk about yet.
Right,
There's nothing to dissect yet in case you're like, Nick, shut up. I want to know what Kyle's saying.
Well, the one thing I was going to add, real quick, could you imagine going camping? Well, I guess you have a girlfriend, so you go camping with your girlfriend, and like just meeting a dude and be like, yeah, let's just hang out with this guy.
Yeah.
No, I would be terrified.
Especially if my girlfriend's laying out on rocks going, hello, boys, to everybody walking around.
Yeah, I thought of that. I was like, a lot of these crimes that happen or stuff, and we said it last week because it was in like upstate Michigan. It's like in today's world, that just doesn't fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that doesn't even come close to happening.
Times were different in 90s Oregon, I guess.
Yeah, apparently.
So it's too late. They walk, set up camp, and then the narrator of the show goes, 3 days later, Kendra goes to the sheriff's office and calls her mom. Julio was dead. Julio was dead.
Good catch.
That was a weird way for them to take that. I have a couple comments on just the way they did this episode at the very end.
Yeah.
But this was a little weird. I get what they tried to do, like, because it segued into a commercial break, and they kept you hooked because they had to explain everything a bit. But it was a little weird.
It was. I think they did
clunky.
it right, and it's one of those things that like it makes if you stopped watching the episode there, it would look really dumb. But because of the whole thing with like the conflicting stories, I think that's why they don't show you what happened yet.
Yeah.
Because then you have to like you hear both sides, and
that was what I thought too. But like out of context, like now we're going to commercial break. Like, what the hell? Like I knew the description too because they say there's different sides to this story.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's what they're doing. But if you didn't know that when this originally aired in probably like 2002 or whatever, you're like, what's going on? Honey, get the TV guide. And you can't find the TV guide, and then it's back on already. Hopefully people know what a TV guide is. They have to know. Our friends are smart.
TV guide?
Yeah.
Like when you hit the guide button, or you mean like the old
I mean the old like newspaper. That's what I was referring to. Yeah. Oh. So then we come back to the episode. Kendra says the three went hunting. Tom, they see a deer, and Tom goes to get the rifle from Julio. He goes to take it from him, and it goes pow, shoots him.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
So there's a handing of the rifle. They wanted Tom to take the first shot, and he took the first shot all right. It was just at Julio. And then Rusty charges at Tom. Mm-hmm. Tom, again, is the man that, you know, was maybe getting flirted with, maybe trying to hit on Kendra. We don't really know.
Right.
They don't really say who was the aggressor and the
in
playful whatever going on there.
Right, and there's not a lot of background on Tom. Like there was in the last episode with all the like the wife's friends. In this one, you don't know much about this guy's personality. So
now Julio and the dog Rusty are dead, and Tom has a record and doesn't think the police will believe him. And so he basically tells Kendra, like, stay with me, like, we'll get out of the woods, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, well, I don't know where I am. I'm 16 years old. If I don't have this guy, I'm SOL.
Right.
Like, I'm just lost in these woods.
And she didn't see the murder either. Like, he came back and told all that to her. Right?
No, this is her story. We're still at...
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
That will make sense in a second.
I apologize. I'm sorry for not muting my phone.
That's just insulting.
I'll go.
So, whatever, they changed their mind in 2 days, and they decide they're going to go tell the police. Brown helps. He cooperates with the police.
Right.
And the death is ruled an accident. Mm-hmm. So, what Kyle meant here...
Yeah, I
in that
apologize.
comment, this was Tom's version of the story that was then kind of pushed on to Kendra. Kendra said that she saw this all happen. They were all together.
Right.
She watched, the exchange take place. Rifle goes off. Boom, her husband's dead. The dog takes off at Tom, and he shoots the dog, too, in self-defense. So that's story one. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to just do story two, or did you have any comments?
No, what I didn't know is... Oh, okay, you're going to get into it in story two. I was wondering, because, like, anybody hearing this would be like, oh, okay, if you're Tom, you just got lucky, you know what I mean? And there's no reason to ever...
But this is half-hour TV show.
Right, yeah. There's no reason to look back.
We got about 14 minutes of airtime left.
Right.
Hang on a minute here. So, basically, Kendra's mom, Lola, is like...
That's what I was gonna get to.
Her daughter's recollection was, in her words, stereo. It sounded like she was just like... I don't know what the right way to say this would be, but it sounded like she was just like repeating it over and over in this certain way.
Rehearsed is what I would say.
I didn't want to be like rehearsed, but I guess that does make the most sense. It was very just like, this is what happened,
or
blah, blah,
coached.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Coached. Like, it didn't sound genuine. So then Kendra goes to the apartment her and Julio had, and she just starts crying. Mm-hmm. She breaks down, and she's like, that's not what happened. This is what happened. And this is where the episode gets pretty good.
Takes a little
because now we take a little turn left at the old hotel, and now we're getting into it. So in this story, I bullet pointed this story because I had already written over a page of notes by this point. Because like I said, this is all essential to know. In this one, Kendra was alone at the campsite. She heard a gunshot. Brown comes running over to her and is like, "Your husband's been shot."
Right.
She runs with him. And then there's another shot, and her dog's dead behind her. And then Tom goes, "I shot your husband too." Yeah. So that's a little different.
Right.
That's a little different. So in this one, again, she hears a gunshot. Tom comes running over.
Yeah.
She hears another shot, and her dog is dead behind her, basically, or maybe just in front of her. I can't remember. And then she's like, "What the hell did you shoot my dog for?" And he's like, "I shot your husband too."
Yeah.
And then now things are getting a little serious.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they already were, because regardless, the guy was dead. But you get what I mean.
Right.
You get what I mean.
Yeah.
So those stories, a little different here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it turns it from, okay, nobody's charged to somebody's, maybe getting the death penalty type thing.
Yeah.
And what I was just going to add, so that's her story. Tom took a lie detector on the first story.
That was important.
And he passed it. She took a lie detector on the second story, a.k.a. the story where Tom's guilty, and she failed it. So now you've got the story, the true story didn't get passed on the lie detector, and his story did. Mm-hmm. And then they go into the usual, that's a great reason why lie detectors can't be used in court.
Right.
And, I mean, her mom even says it in the show, like, if you're 16, you went through all of that. No way you're passing a lie detector first try.
And to get a little more in detail on what happened in those 2 days where they were allegedly just hanging out.
Yeah, this
is where it gets really serious. Brown takes Kendra deep into the woods and rapes her numerous times over the following days. And she only gets out of it because she started reading the Bible aloud. And Brown was like, "Oh my God, like what is going on? Like, what did I do?" He gets emotional. And says it was an accident, that he shot her husband accidentally. Julio, it was an accident, not intentional, and he didn't know what to do. He then tells her he'll let her go if she agrees to say it was an accident.
Right, to corroborate.
Which is why maybe it sounded stereo to her mother.
Right.
Then, again, as Kyle said, she tells her version, failed the lie detector test. Mm-hmm. Before it was ruled accidental, Tom passed a lie detector test, which led to it being ruled accidental.
Right.
So they go to examine the dog because they will know now, hey, the dog's entry wound is in the front of his face. It was charging at him. That kind of backs up Tom's story.
Sure.
If it's behind him or some weird angle,
right, then it would.
Then maybe we can get something to believe Kendra for.
Right. Yeah, this is where the forensics comes in.
This is where we finally kick into how they solved this. Because now we have two stories, and we're not sure which one should be believed. Mm-hmm. And so, they can't do that to the dog, though, because he's at a mass animal burial ground.
Right.
Which, this might be really stupid, but do they not know, like, I doubt they're all marked or anything like a human cemetery would be, but did they not have an idea? How much later was this? Was it still fresh where, like, the dog was buried? Like,
I'll bet you.
I've never had a pet large enough to consider putting it in a pet cemetery, but I don't know what they look like. But I thought maybe if this didn't happen much later, they would have had, like, fresh dirt if they're not marked or something at least to go off of to find it.
Right. I'll bet they probably couldn't. Just because if she went all the way home to the apartment they owned with her mother, eventually tells that side of the story, and then comes back. Yeah, I'd say it decomposed. Or I always wonder when they say mass grave, do they mean just a hole in the ground with all kinds of pets in it?
Yeah, that's
well then
that's
you probably
my
wouldn't be able
other
to tell which
right.
one.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think too, if they wouldn't have been able to do the forensics on Julio, I don't think it would have held up as well in court.
I don't
Not
think
that
she had
dogs don't matter.
We'll get
but you
into
know what
how
I
it
mean.
happens, but I don't think they would have had a chance if Julio didn't. That story didn't go the way it did.
Right.
So now they're
forensics.
wondering. Well, we want to believe this woman because she seems a little screwed up, like traumatized. But she failed her lie detector test, and we really don't have much to go off of. There's no other witnesses that can back anything up. So what do we do? That brings in forensic psychiatrist Dr. Joseph Trelevin. I don't know what his name is because I kind of messed up my handwriting there because I was in the dark watching this with the screen serving as my only source of light. So we'll say Trevelyan. He thinks back to the Korean War.
That's where it ties
This is
in.
where the Korean War kicks in, where prisoners of war adopted their captor's point of view and like spoke out against America, aka Stockholm Syndrome, which I heard of and knew about, but I never thought about it in this sense before.
That's one of the notes before when I said I had funny notes written down.
Oh.
I put, at first you think she is doing something shady. Then you realize she almost had that thing where they sympathize with their captor. That's what I wrote.
Uh-huh.
And in my head I went, Nick will know what that's called because I can't think of it right now at 10 at night. And then a minute ago, he goes, Stockholm Syndrome. And he used the exact same phrasing, sympathize with their captor. And I was like, Nick will appreciate
I do.
that worked.
So basically, after Stockholm Syndrome, this doctor says there's 4 things that happen: traumatic shock, isolation, indoctrination, and the promise of the reward.
Yeah.
A reward. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny because, like, this case literally has, like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And they do say it in
They
the
don't
episode.
stall either. They go, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Traumatic shock. She gets raped and her husband's dead. Isolation. She's alone in the woods. Indoctrination is Tom saying it was an accident. Here's what happened. Promise of a reward. She no longer feels responsible.
She can leave the woods.
And she can leave the woods.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So they have all 4 of those points, but they still need to prove it.
Right.
They still need to find something to go along with this to say, hey, this is substantial evidence. We can prove this in the court.
Right.
So that leads us to Julio. There was no gunpowder on him.
Right.
And that's when some genius pops into the screen and goes, you know, when a gun is discharged, you can't ever say fire or shot. They have to say the correct terminology.
Yeah.
That probably made you mad that I made fun of that.
No,
you
that's...
guns expert, Kyle. But
It's
he
funny
goes,
how they do that.
when a gun's discharged, it's not only a bullet that comes out. And I go, no. So they do tests done from different kinds of distances to see how far the gunpowder residue sprays. And it was 30-something feet, I think it ended up being.
I think it was...
Or no, it was like 6 feet. 3 feet.
36
yes. There was a
inches.
3... Yes.
36, yeah, you had 30,
36
right?
inch. I
Yeah.
combined both numbers.
30 feet.
30 feet, 6 feet, 3 feet. Yeah.
He sniped Julia. Go ahead.
And then the main kicker, which to me makes me question how the first thing passed through, how it was originally ruled an accident. They look at the wound and it wasn't upward. It was straight on.
Yeah, so it was like if me and you are the two of them, it was like through your cheek.
Hang on.
Oh,
Keep talking.
no, I didn't think this would ever happen. Wow. Are we watching the show or
basically,
reenacting it?
what we're being told happened. Look at this. We got a thumbnail. They're saying the shot was like... If you're listening on audio, please go to the YouTube video because that will make this so much better. They're shooting
it goes
upward like that.
Yeah,
discharge accidentally.
Right, and it would be like if it went in here and came out here.
Right.
And you're handing me the gun 3 feet away. So this is 3 feet away from here, which means I'm against the wall. Not even. The wall's closer than I thought. You're against that wall. Yeah. And that's basically
the
how
bullet wound was like pow,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. If you're listening on audio, please at least for those 45 seconds go watch the YouTube video.
Right. And in the show they show it too, like there's no way, if I'm obviously anyone who's ever handed somebody a gun, you don't hand them the barrel with your hand on the trigger.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
So, the police had an easy solution here. They had two people saying the same story, and they said, all right.
And then the icing on the cake evidence. Go ahead.
We'll get to that in
That
a second.
one upset me a little bit.
So, shot wasn't upward. That was probably so loud. Shot wasn't upward. There was no gunpowder on him. So but they don't know if that's enough.
Right.
They're like, is this enough really? We're saying, because they knew the defense was going to use the polygraph test.
Yeah.
It'd be like, hey.
And I'm sure back in the 80s or the 90s, forensics wasn't even like that's why this show was so popular. Because like forensics, now all you need is forensics. Back then, they're like,
you needed 3 witnesses. You needed
right. What me and you just did with a toy gun, they were nervous that wasn't enough. And then me and you were sitting here like, that's all you need. Like that's funny to me how crazy different
is
it is.
all you need. Sorry, that was a bad time for a Beatles reference. So things aren't looking good for Tom, but
no, they aren't.
He's fairly confident because he knows that he's got those polygraph tests in his pocket.
Right.
Mental health, I don't know if you consider it. It's probably mental health. Mental health obviously is not taken as seriously as it is now.
Right.
Those kinds of things aren't, prominent
right.
whenever this happens. So he's feeling confident, but he makes the mistake. The mistake that I don't understand how you make, and that rhymed accidentally. Because he gets cocky and starts telling his cellmate how he was going to get off, then go kill Kendra for making him go through this, and then kill her lawyers.
Yeah, which
when you're on trial for murder, saying you're going to murder more people, probably isn't a good idea.
Yeah,
and what loyalty do him and his cellmate have at this point is my other question.
They're like, and after this, the cellmate turns state's evidence. I mean, could you imagine if you're the cellmate? I would listen to that entire story, and all I would hear is, that might get me 5 years off of my sentence.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to tell somebody.
You don't say that to your cellmate.
No, you don't.
Unless you're like, you did the crime together or something.
Right.
And you're like bragging about what you did.
Again, and I'm not rooting for Tom here. Obviously, it's like, if you're that dumb and you've done something that horrible, I'm glad that it was an easy guilty.
That's his only real mistake. We saw Bruce make all those mistakes. This is the only real, like, shoot himself in the foot, pun might be intended.
Yeah, I wonder
that Tom had.
I wonder how the trial would have gone had he not done that. Because obviously they were running out of time on the episode, but they made it seem like he said that, guy turned state's evidence, and like, boom, he's guilty.
Right. So, as you say, he is found guilty.
Yeah.
Then they end the episode. Kendra has a nice life. She's married, has kids.
Right.
Episode over. What'd you think of this one?
I think this one was good. I don't know if we rated the last one.
We did not.
I would rate this one as, obviously this is a more serious one, but I think it was good. Good for, like I said, the forensics. It's a good episode to watch and see how something so open and closed took like years. I don't know if it took years, but you know what I mean? Like, it took a long amount of time to solve based on 2 different stories and the way evidence has changed. I think it's a good one.
I thought it was a very interesting case.
Yeah.
Because, like, when they said dueling stories, I thought it was going to be like,
he said, she said.
She shot him or he shot Julio, and, like, they were arguing, and then there was a small piece. I didn't expect it to be. She was basically as much of a victim as the dead guy was.
Right.
And she needed someone to believe her. So that was really surprising.
Yeah.
Again, the forensic evidence obviously helped them. It was the reason it all happened.
Yeah.
This one kind of wrapped up quick, though, in my opinion. By the time they explained both sides of the story, like, if you thought it was long with me reciting it all, just watching it, I, like, moved the cursor on my laptop, and there's, like, 7 minutes left by the time they started applying the forensic evidence.
Right.
And the last minute and a half is basically everybody just, like, crapping on the person who gets arrested, like every forensic filed episode. So really, there's only, like, 5-ish minutes of screen time where they're, like,
forensic heavy,
really applying the forensic stuff.
Yeah, I think it's because it was so, like we showed. It was so easy. It was just that they needed something else to help.
You're getting a demonstration here.
That was all. We should do more demonstrations for these episode reviews, if ever possible.
Go out.
Get luminol.
If there's a drowning, we go in my pool and I hold you underwater. See, he can't hold his breath for 35 seconds.
Let's see if Kyle can survive 2 minutes underwater.
I tape cinder blocks around your head. We go outside for last week's and I push a cinder block off my roof on you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. But I mean, to your point, I thought this episode was good. I don't think ranking the episodes makes much sense.
No, I don't think so either.
We basically ranking people in terms of like how good was this murderer. Tom was a lot better than Bruce at committing murder.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was interesting that he told his cellmate if he is found not guilty, he's going to go kill her and kill her lawyers. Like, what do they have to do with anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can understand going back for her, but like, could you imagine? I guess that's probably how you know that guy was crazy. Like he got off on it after committing horrible, like multiple crimes, horrible, and then the first thing he's gonna do as a free man is go commit him again. Like, what? I don't understand it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They never said what his other problems with the law were, did they?
His priors? No.
They just said he had a history with the law.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that or if I missed it or whatever.
I don't think they specified. Obviously, it wasn't murder or anything, but it was enough that if he shows up in a shady situation, they might, suspect him.
Yeah, but overall, I'm enjoying these shows. Let us know if you're enjoying these little episode run-throughs. Yeah, as always, we encourage you to watch them and then come back and watch us and hear our thoughts. And now we'll go from a very serious subject matter to the comedy portion of the show, which is the Logan Paul-Floyd Mayweather fight that took place on Sunday night. Kyle texted me a rant on Monday morning, about 8 texts long. I agreed with almost everything.
Yeah, I read your article today, too.
Kyle read my article. You can read that at strandedsports.com.
Agreed with all of that.
So you're I like MMA, UFC more than boxing.
Right,
so this is more of your gripe, even though I have a gripe against it, too.
Sure.
So I'd like you to just... like as if you were on trial, just give us an opening statement of what you thought of this fight. I'll chime in with my thoughts, and then we can go back and forth like a game of tennis.
Gotcha. So what I'll open with as far as positives, because I didn't think there were many good things about this. Why is it on a Sunday night? I'm going to get angry and just start going at the negatives. But Mayweather looked good in the sense that he looked young. He looked very spry. Now, I'm not saying Logan Paul's a cheetah. I mean, I'm sure you could, you know what I mean? If you're dodging punches your whole life, you could probably dodge his. He's, not that fast. But, I mean, he was throwing punches, and it was like, like the ones, like in a movie. And I was like, all right, I mean, it looks pretty good. Dancing around. The part that upset me a little bit, and I know he's a defensive fighter. I like defensive boxing, so I'm not going to hold it against him. But, like, it almost seemed like Logan Paul would, like pump fake him. He would, you know what I mean? Like, it almost looked like he was too jittery. And I was like, that's when because if he gets clobbered at 44 or whatever, I mean, that's like life altering. He can't just take one anymore. So it's kind of like, Logan Paul does this and he he almost not scared, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you noticed that.
He was respecting
his power.
My thought when he did that, not to cut you off from your time.
You're good.
Was he trying to I'll get into my conspiracy later, actually. Go ahead.
Okay. That's about, as far as positives, that's about it. Logan Paul, he looked better than he did against KSI, but I don't think he's a good boxer. Why doesn't he have his hands up? That was probably the biggest gripe I had. You're going up against a guy who's fast, who is known for, the shoulder roll, and next thing you know, he's punching you from over here instead of over... And you're fighting like this the whole time?
Yeah.
How is your game plan not almost keep one hand here and, and granted, I'm holding him to a high standard because it's a boxing match, but I mean, you got to at least act like you've been there before.
I'll go to my positives, actually.
Okay.
And then we can start, because once one of us says a negative, we're just going to start, it's going to steamroll. My positives, as you said, Floyd looked good.
Yeah.
Floyd, I expected him to look good.
Right.
There were all kinds of conflicting stories on how hard he was training. He said one thing, Logan Paul said another thing, the press said something.
Oh, yeah.
He looked good. He was having fun.
Yeah, he's keeping his body good, too.
Right. Logan Paul, he's a fit guy. He looked great. Like, he looked like $1 million physique-wise.
Oh, sure.
I'm not attracted to Logan Paul, if that's where anyone was going. He looked in good shape. You could tell he took it seriously.
Right.
The first... I want to be careful with how I say this. He looked more comfortable than he did against KSI, in the sense that I turned it on, and if you didn't tell me either of their backstories,
Right.
I would have said, oh, he's boxed before.
Sure.
Now, he didn't keep his hands up, which, like, if you watch boxing, you know that, like, keep your hands up is, like, the main thing.
Right.
Technically, from just, like, looking at this, if you've never watched it before, didn't know who they were, you would think Logan Paul belonged in there.
Sure.
So kudos to him for that.
I will give you that. He looked, yeah. KSI's not a boxer, and he looked bad against him. So here, that's a good point. He at least held his own.
And now the negatives.
Yeah.
Because those were my only positives. I'll say the first thing, because...
We'll just jump back and forth with the negatives.
We're just going to play ping pong, like I said, or tennis. The first real issue I had with this, Floyd... they do this gimmick. I'm going to call it a gimmick because there's no way it wasn't a gimmick. Logan Paul gets interviewed before the co-main. Or after, yeah, it was before the co-main.
Oh, I didn't see those. Okay.
He says whatever. He's got his Pokemon card. Actually, I don't think... Yeah, he had it on by that point, I think.
Yeah.
He's got his Pokemon card on. They go, Floyd's not doing an interview. Like, he's focused. Like, there's no way he's going to talk now. They have these late-night hosts from this Showtime show doing color with Mauro Ranallo, who I love Mauro Ranallo, who's the play-by-play guy. We'll get into them later.
Okay.
Then they come back, and they're like, Floyd has finally agreed to do an interview. Like, you guys helped me get him. And I was like, okay, that was definitely planned.
Yeah.
This is where I go, uh-oh. Because Floyd goes, I can't win. If I knock him out in the first round, everyone's going to be pissed off. If I let him hang around for a little bit, everyone's going to be mad and say I'm washed, whatever. So he's basically he went through 2 or 3 scenarios of what could happen. He's like, no one's going to be happy no matter what. I disagreed with him because if he'd knocked out Logan Paul in 30 seconds, I think the world would have rejoiced.
Yeah.
So I was a little conflicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, this guy wants to put on a circus to make sure he gets his money's worth, and if he tries this again, people will pay for it. I don't think it worked out the way he thought, but hearing that, I went, uh-oh.
Yeah. I didn't know that, and that's how I would have responded too. What do you mean knocking him out would make people angry?
He meant like if he knocked him out quick, everyone would be like, oh, I waited for that.
Sure, but when's the last time
Logan
Mayweather...
Paul.
It's Logan Paul.
People want to see him get knocked out, man. I like Logan Paul more now than I think most people would, and I wanted to see him get knocked out.
When's the last time Mayweather knocked anybody out? When's the last time he didn't win by decision or win...
He TKO'd McGregor.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, but the ref stopped that fight. I mean, like, physically knocked out a guy who's a cruiserweight compared to your lightweight? Yeah, get out of here with that.
And
Go ahead.
The next point I'll take it to, again, feel free to chime in whenever. We could talk about this for an hour, so I hope it doesn't go that long because I want to spend some decent time on our last segment, and I want to keep the show around an hour long. First round. First round's when I know we're just in for a farce.
Yeah.
Floyd's establishing how far Logan's jab goes.
Sure.
He's controlling the distance. He's kind of letting Logan kind of dictate what's going on. Logan's not landing a thing in the first round. The end of the first round, he shells. Floyd does. And I go, oh, like, is he hurt? No, he wasn't hurt. He was just protecting because he was kind of pushing Logan back a bit. And the first time, I physically went like, ah. Because Logan just starts hammering, like hammer fisting, throwing wildly,
getting
like
tired.
The whole length of the ring.
Yeah.
He just does that. He probably threw 30 punches. Maybe one or two made it through. And anyone who's never... I don't want to sound like an elitist. Anyone who's never watched boxing is probably like, oh my God, Logan is killing Floyd Mayweather. And who thinks that? But Jake Paul on the outside of the ring, who they kept showing after every round, and he kept proclaiming his brother was winning rounds. And I was like, honestly, Logan might have won the first round. The first round, my stream was a little messy, so I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, he could have won maybe 1 or 2 rounds. What was it, 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I don't want to get too sidetracked on Jake Paul because I don't care, but like, you want people to take you seriously as a boxer. Why are you standing on the side going, Logan, 3 rounds to 2? I'm like, what are you talking about? And the fight ends and he's all cheering. Like, you see him instantly pull his phone out. Like he's going to tweet
50-1.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? Just so upsetting. Like, how do you expect people to take you seriously? You can't even call a fight. Like,
yeah. Do you have anything else you want? I was going to try to go through the fight, maybe.
Yeah, that's fine. He let him get tired.
Yeah.
It was the classic Rocky.
So Logan Paul's already tired. Second round, dude's guard, which was like here, is now down to like his waist.
Yeah.
He's gassed.
Logan throwing punches from down here.
Yeah. Logan starts like throwing stuff. He catches Mayweather with like 2 at one point. Everyone's like, huh?
Oh yeah, he landed punches.
And after that, Floyd just takes him to school. The whole second half of the second round, Floyd starts landing.
Yeah.
Third round, Floyd embarrasses him. He caught him a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth round, I don't really remember the middle rounds that well because Logan's gassed. Logan's hugging. Floyd lands a punch here and there. Logan lands a random shot. He landed like 13 punches the whole fight, I think.
The percent was low.
Yeah, it was bad.
The one thing I did notice, the first round and a half, Logan was moving and Mayweather was backing up. And as the fight went on, Logan Paul was the one backing up, getting out of the way. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to lose, but that his role as the bigger guy should be getting him into a corner, not backing out of him or backing into one.
The last few rounds were just pitiful. Horrible television, horrible from a fighting standpoint, because
go ahead.
It didn't look like, this is my other big gripe. Mm-hmm. It didn't look like Floyd was actively pursuing a knockout.
Win. Correct.
He would like ding him, and like he'd initiate the hug, or he'd just not. Because there were a couple times Logan was nimble. He was weak as hell. He was battered at that point. He was gassed. If he goes to clinch, Floyd easily a couple times could have jabbed him or just shoved him with an arm and then kept going, but he didn't do it. Because Logan kept ending up right by the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept initiating him from there. If he would have shoved him back one time and just barraged him, he would have been toast.
I need to show you. I saw it today on my break. I didn't notice this during the fight, but when you watch this video...
When he catches him the one time.
Yeah, and it looks like... Because the comment said, like, Mayweather knocked him out, but realized he needed to keep the fight going. And it literally, like, Logan, like, falls into him. He catches him. It also looks like he says something and then throws him back up. And I'm like, man, I wonder what
Apparently,
really
the way
happened.
that's cut, it looks worse than it was.
Oh, okay.
But there were, like, 2 punches he threw where Logan looked lost, and I was like, literally knock him out. Because, you know, if you don't knock him out, you're never going to hear the end of it. So,
the big issue I had... and they should have had judges, and they should have had a winner or a loser, because as the fight went on, Logan Paul started holding him, which is a good technique. Like, if Mayweather is going to employ the defensive technique and dance away from you, as the bigger guy, you should employ I'm just going to hug him and lean on him. I know it's not fun to watch, but if you want to win, that's what you got to do. The problem is when there's no judge and there's no winner, it's just 2 dudes hugging in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
And you know...
There are all those memes.
Yeah. And then also, if you're going to do that, you have to, at some point, turn it on. Like, you can't try and tire him out by hanging on him and then never light him up. You're just hanging on him for a whole fight.
But, I mean, the fight itself, what we said, I despised. It sucked. Jake Paul is saying Floyd's down 3-2 after he got his brother got teed off on. For like 3 rounds. His brother did nothing. And then what just sent me over because, like, I've advocated, like, Logan Paul's a better dude than he used to be.
Sure.
This whole event, every time they show him, it was just like watching a really lame, like, teenage douchebag.
Yeah.
And, like, I want to like Logan Paul. Like, I enjoy a lot of his content now. I respect what he's doing. But, like, I didn't like what I saw Sunday. And I, like, really wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt because I respect what he's done to get to this point, to even make an event like this possible.
Right.
But he's sitting there going, and he's just... Like, that was a stupid example, but like, he's got his Charizard card on. He's like, and then after all the douchiness, the last round's ending, he's done nothing for 4 rounds, and he points at the clock and starts talking shit to Mayweather about how he lasted 8 rounds. I'm like, He didn't look, and I don't want to be like a conspiracy, like he wasn't trying. That's why Floyd's not a knockout artist.
No.
He's known as a points fighter.
But
he's 44. But it didn't look like he was trying that hard to knock him out. He wanted to keep it going.
Yeah.
And you hugged him for 4 rounds.
Right.
So what are you bragging about? Yeah, it's cool you lasted that long, but you didn't win.
But the best thing you could say is he ate a lot of punches and stayed up the whole time, which is impressive. Allegedly. However, a punch, if Mayweather gets hit in the jaw by Logan Paul, that hurts Mayweather a lot more than if Logan Paul gets hit in the jaw by Mayweather. I'm not saying there's no power behind it, but he's known for being a quick tap you a few times and get out kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like you just say, he's not a knockout artist. So, like, yeah, you did last the whole time, but at the same time, he's that much smaller than you are. His punches aren't hitting the same. I mean, it was...
It was a farce.
Yeah, it was bad. The commentators, I don't want to spend much time on them because who cares? But they were bad. I was so angry. They kept making stupid jokes. Oh, he's already lasted longer than his vines used to last. And I was like, those aren't funny. And
I liked Mauro Ranallo, who's the play-by-play guy, the main guy with the like longer hair. He's really good.
I know who you're talking about.
He started just joining in with the Showtime guys with the jokes, though. And they kept making fun of Logan.
That was the other thing. It was so one-sided.
And
I
didn't even want him to win. I don't like Mayweather, but like I wasn't actively rooting for either guy really. I just wanted to be entertained, and I really wasn't.
Yeah.
But like, if that were me and I were Mauro Ranallo, who actually watches combat sports, I'd been like, why is Floyd not trying at all to finish him off?
Yeah. See, that's the other thing.
Why is Logan acting like he's winning?
Right.
You know, what's going on here?
There was no criticism of Mayweather.
There was nothing.
And it gives the impression that they were all rooting against Logan Paul for being the new guy.
When you look at the promoter being involved, Mayweather Promotions is involved.
Oh,
do you know who owns that?
And I get it.
Do you know who probably owned that whole event?
Oh yeah, he was.
Every fighter in the opening fight said thank you to Mayweather Promotions for the opportunity.
Oh yeah,
do you think maybe there was someone in their ear backstage going, "Hey, Floyd's just having fun with this kid.
Yeah.
Maybe don't point out anything he says wrong or he does wrong."
No, that's 100% what it was. And then after all that, the fight's over. They do their interview, and Mayweather's like, "He's a good kid. You know, he's not too bad. I think he could."
Floyd did not give a shit about this fight, which was my favorite thing.
He's just so blatantly just taking
on
people's
Impulsive
money.
Logan Paul's podcast. He's like, Floyd is training like it's a world title fight. He won't let you know, but he is. They interview Floyd, who he might have been lying to, for all we know. But he's like, yeah, I mean, I was training a few days a week, wasn't training that hard. He's better than I thought he was. I had fun tonight. This is like a public sparring session. And I was like,
I was so angry when I saw that.
Do you think people that paid $50 wanted to see a public sparring session?
And I'm pretty sure on the last episode we did, I brought up how him and McGregor can talk shit on each other for months in advance, and then as soon as the fight ends, they're best friends. And what happened here? He goes, "Yeah, it was good. He's a good kid. I had a lot of fun tonight." I'm like, I don't care that you had fun tonight. What? I had fun making $500 million, and I only ate 13 punches, and 12 of them didn't hurt. Like, you look back at like Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, and Thomas Hearns. I think Thomas was his first name. Something Hearns.
Tommy Hearns.
Tommy Hearns, yeah. Those four were like the big four of their time. They all fought each other, and it was like one would beat the other, then lose to the next. And they didn't like each other, I don't think. Granted, they would fight again. Obviously, if there's a rematch, him and Logan would keep up the shtick. But like, I don't think those guys are friends today. I don't know. It seems like sports back then, rivalries mattered. You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine after like Ohio State, Michigan played, if they're all buddy-buddy? Like, it just doesn't...
Harbaugh and Ryan Day make out at the 50-yard line.
It doesn't make sense, and it's annoying to be like, wow, you really just didn't care. I don't...
To me...
But I'm a poor sport, so maybe that's just me. I don't like shaking hands if I lose, so what do I know?
As I said in my article that you can read at strandedsports.com again...
One thing I'll bring up after you're done.
What was good? I don't want to spend too much more time on this because I feel like everyone's heard the same gripes we've had a million times if you're interested. What worked with the Chad Johnson fight was that they put him against a guy who had never won, And
That was a good point you made.
Chad Johnson's a freak athlete, and you're like, maybe he can actually win this. And dare I say, he probably looked better than that guy the first 2 rounds out of their 4.
Right.
Also, that guy's a joke.
Oh,
Brian Maxwell, not to like, well, yeah, it's basically going to end up me crapping on him. You're 0-3 in bare knuckle fighting, 0-2 or 0-1 in boxing. You knocked down Chad Johnson in the 4th round. You couldn't land anything meaningful before that. And then you go, put some respect on my name. Remember my name now, or whatever he said at the end of it. He's like shouting to like respect him, or you know who Brian Maxwell is now. I'm like, buddy, you're in like the D tier of combat sports organizations and the bare knuckle fighting championship. And you knocked down Chad Johnson, who got right back up. And you're saying, what's my name now?
You knocked down a football player who's
43.
I was just going to say, yeah, who's been
He's a year younger than Mayweather.
I'm not a huge fan of that either, of like overly cockiness in combat sport, especially combat sports, because how many montages do you see where some guy talks a ton of crap, they do the face thing and they poke him or they do something goofy, and then it cuts to like just knocked out instantly. Like, you're an idiot.
But what worked with that fight, you thought Chad Johnson might win, especially because he came out and landed some good shots early.
Right.
What the problem with this fight is, as much as we tried to believe it, you knew Logan Paul probably wasn't going to knock out Floyd unless he got really lucky. He would get out boxed to the death of him. Right. But maybe there's a lucky shot. It goes 8 rounds.
It was literally... Oh, sorry.
No one has the cardio to do that. None of these celebrities have done it. KSI, Logan Paul, they were tripping all over the place, if memory serves me right, with that second fight.
Yeah, they were gassed by round 2,
Jake
and I think
Paul,
it was 3 rounds.
We don't know because he's fighting garbage bags.
And he fights 2 rounds at the most.
If they're going to do this crap going forward, you need to make it shorter. Because I think this is the nail in the coffin. Celebrity boxing is really not worth it unless you get that quick knockout, or if it's short enough to where they don't get gassed to shit.
You said 6 rounds in that article. I think that's great. 3 isn't bad.
Especially if they're like 2-minute rounds, like they did with the Chad Johnson.
I was just going to say
shorter. Don't make them do 3-minute rounds.
Right, yeah. 2-minute rounds, do 6 of them, and then you hope for a knockout, but even if it goes 6, at least there's something there. There's no reason to go a ton of rounds.
And you can't do the points thing in 6 rounds either. You don't want to. Right. You don't want to risk it, or you can't really have that long game strategy.
I was
then
just saying,
either.
It's not long enough to where like you can tire them out 5 rounds because you can't win it on. Yeah,
you can't go down 4-0 and then win the last 8 rounds or 6 rounds or something. You have to make it all count,
which is fine because I don't expect that from these guys. I'm not expecting Logan Paul to play the long game.
I want like a grudge match with celebrities. They go out there and try to maul each other, and then they get a little tired, and maybe we'll see who can win in a longer, war of attrition, kind of deal. But this 10-round, 8-round, it's like
it's goofy.
They're gassed.
Yeah.
And Logan Paul's like, I've trained for over 2 years for this fight. And he's gassed after 1 round where he wildly throws 30 punches and misses them all. I'm like, come on, man.
Get out of here.
Not like it's easy. I have respect for him for even doing it. I couldn't do that.
No, me either. But yeah, I'm done falling for the training that everyone hypes up for any of these fights. Because then you look and you're like, you didn't train hard at all. Maybe you went in and put in
chill.
Maybe you put in a lot of time, but you didn't eat right, or you didn't, go to bed early, or you know what I mean. You didn't commit 100% to this. No chance.
Hopefully we don't have to talk about. Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul's not that far off.
We could always save that.
Yeah, we're not getting into that now. Don't worry. Nick and Kyle Berger Hedrick. Someone will have an opinion. Damn it, July 4th. Just kidding. I doubt that'll actually happen. I'd be down though. If we can find an undercard in a venue.
Undercard.
I don't work for free. We need to get that pay-per-view money. We'll move on now. The best Queen song. That's not Bohemian Rhapsody. That is how we interpreted this, right? That is what you meant.
Yeah, that was the other funny thing I wrote. I put best song by a band other than their universally accepted best song.
Wow.
Which is way too long. Like to tweet.
That rolls right off the tongue.
Check out our new series.
Best song that is not the best song by the fans' point of view, but should be considered. Just runs across the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm not editing that in, but no, that would be a fun thought. So today's band is Queen. The song is Bohemian Rhapsody because they had a movie named after that song even.
Yep. And it's a love it or hate it song, but musically, it's definitely their best that they put together. And we both have said before, Queen's a very hits band. They have a ton of hits. They don't really have a great album.
In our opinion.
Yeah, that's why we're here. I'm curious to hear what you said, because I texted you this idea, then I got home after work and thought about it and was like, gee, I don't know.
These should be kind of quick conversations.
They should
too.
be.
You know, fun, get your opinion out. I found one a while ago called March of the Black Queen.
I've never heard that before.
Musically, it's like 6 minutes long. It's got some good guitar, some interesting vocal. I would like to do one of their more universally known songs, but I think that's a very good song. Highly recommend you check out March of the Black Queen.
I will. I've never heard that.
But go ahead.
So I said it's definitely not, because I'm not a huge fan of Queen either.
Boy.
I've vocally said that Robert Plant was the better frontman, but it's definitely not We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, or Somebody to Love. I do not like any of those songs.
I like We Are the Champions. I just think it's a good Like I Did It song.
Sure.
But I hate We Will Rock You. I think that song is played to the core, and it annoys me to no end at this point in my life. Somebody to Love, I don't care for it.
No.
So I'd agree with two of those three.
All right. That's what it isn't.
Yeah.
Did you have any you ruled out? Maybe
I was going to say I didn't think any of those songs should be considered.
Okay.
I didn't know if I was actually going to take the conversation that direction.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, you don't need to apologize. I wasn't going to name the songs I ruled out. I was going to name the ones I had. But I'm glad you brought those
Only
up.
for this band, because like if we were doing Led Zeppelin, I wouldn't like just start shitting on songs. But at least you know. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I have 3, and I'll tell you which one I think it is. And it's just because it's hard with a band with so many hits to be like, gee, I don't know, slow one, fast one. Fat Bottom Girls, Another One Bites the Dust, and Radio Gaga. Radio Gaga's probably at the end of it. It's just so catchy. The clap.
The claps at Live Aid when they sing that song?
Yeah. Another One Bites the Dust is probably one of their most popular that isn't Bohemian Rhapsody or the We Will Rock You Champions, halvesies. But I like Fat Bottom Girls a lot.
That song is good.
It comes on the radio a lot, and I listen to the radio a lot when I'm driving, as most people do. And one day I was like, you know what? Because every now and then a song I hear a ton, I'll just listen to again, and I'll be like, you know what? I really like that song, even though it's popular. And that one, that's my newest, I hear, I'm like,
that song rocks.
Yeah, it does.
Like, not even, like, joking. Like,
Right.
That's a good, like,
I
the
think-
instrumentals when that chorus kicks in, like, that hits you, man.
I think that's my pick.
I never would have thought that the song with the words Big Fat Fanny, but, really would rank that high up. But when that song hits you, like, in your gut, you're like, oh, this is actually, like, a kick-ass song.
Yeah, that is my pick, now that you've given me
I'd agree with that. I'd entertain that argument.
All right.
But it's not my pick.
What'd you have?
I had March of the Black Queen, but I'm going to overrule that just because it's not as well known.
Sure.
I had Don't Stop Me Now.
Oh,
Don't Stop Me Now is a great song, but I don't know if I like it more than my actual number one, which you haven't mentioned, Killer Queen.
I really like Killer Queen.
I think it's got like the elegant Freddie Mercury voice. It's got the challenging notes here and there. It's got a really quick but swift. Well, those mean the same thing. It's got a really swift solo from Brian May. That's just a.
That is a good song. It's guaranteed to blow your mind.
It is. It is guaranteed to blow your mind every time. But I think
that got me a little excited for Queen again.
That would have to be my number one. It's quick.
Yeah.
It's not one of their long drawn out songs. If you want to know what Queen is, you put on that song.
That's a good point.
You got some really good elements from all of the members there. Yeah. And I think it works.
I like that.
If I wanted to sell someone on Queen and they're like, don't play that Bohemian Rhapsody song, I'd put on Killer Queen.
That's good. That's a good point. I'd probably
and that's
do
my opinion, damn it.
I would do that one, and Fat Bottom Girls probably be second. Or Another One Bites the Dust.
Oh.
But I can't believe I really overlooked that one. I remember seeing it and being like, eh. It's tough, though. Queen is on the radio so much that all of these songs are very easy to be like, eh.
Queen's kind of an easy band to do this with.
Yeah.
Just because they have so many big ones.
I'm excited for, the one I teased, Lynyrd Skynyrd, because Freebird, obviously, but I don't know what their second best song is. They've got a lot of good, like, funky rock songs. It's
Right.
not Sweet Home Alabama, I'll tell you that right now.
Well, we're going to tell you right now that we'll be back next week. Kyle, any parting thoughts for the
do.
lovely people? Oh, no.
I saw this earlier, and I almost started laughing, middle of Forensic Files, and I didn't want to be disrespectful. We live scars, white knuckles, and no regrets. Broken bodies that refuse to quit. Graveyard shifts we never miss. Fearless and peerless. Unstoppable, undefeated, unbroken. We live full throttle.
Wow. Kyle just read off his can in case anybody didn't know what was going on listening to the audio only.
That's the most
That's
I've ever
deep
seen
for an energy drink.
For an energy drink. And they spelled knuckles right? I don't know if that's the right
Does it start with a K?
Knuckles?
Yeah, that's right.
That's knuckles?
I
That
think
looks
so.
weird.
I know. That's a weird looking word, man.
Fearless and peerless. What is peerless? No peers?
I guess.
What if the guy sitting
You
next to you
have-
is drinking his
you have
full
no
throttle?
friends.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's nice to know.
that's goofy.
Well, freaks, we'll see you later next time on Have an Opinion. I can finally go pee.